fiery death as a military jet slams into an Indianapolis airport hotel. First pictures of the actual U.S. warship attack on those Iranian oil platforms in the Persian Gulf. And after the panic, a day of dramatic ups and downs on the stock market.
The economic fundamentals in this country remain sound, and our citizens should not panic, and I have great confidence in the future.
Good evening. This is the CBS Evening News. Dan Rather reporting. Signs of a shaky recovery on Wall Street. Question is, can it last? Tomorrow looks to be another important day for the market, with the world watching and worrying. The Dow Jones Industrial Average today recorded an all-time one-day increase, up over 5%. Yesterday, the worst loss ever, down some 22%. Today, the best gain ever, but it still recovered only about a fifth of yesterday's staggering losses. And today's gain came only after a session-long struggle. Ray Brady has the facts, some perspective, and the outlook. Ray?
Dan, brokers are saying they like the tone of the market at the close, but they're also saying what a day this was. The Dow Jones Industrial Average fluctuated wildly all day, up 190 points, then down, then ahead, finally finishing the session up and by a record, more than 102 points. Volume broke yesterday's record.
It was a nervous day. The market walked on eggs, but it ended up with a small rally.
When Wall Street went to work this morning, it had reason to worry. There are 45 million small investors who own mutual fund shares. If they had decided to sell today, like the big investors sold yesterday, billions of dollars worth of stock would have hit the ticker tape and sent stock prices plummeting again. Some are worried their investments may go up in smoke, and some did sell.
A lot of small investors who are panicking, they're going to take whatever they can get right now.
I think smaller investors will stay out of the stock market a lot more. I know I will.
But to steady nerves, the Federal Reserve Board today announced it would see that there was plenty of money around to ease any emergency. And two banks, the Chemical and the Marine Midland, cut the prime lending rate 0.5 percentage point to 9.25%. Always good news for stocks.
These were steps taken by the financial establishment to try to stem the panic. And stem the panic they have, but what remains to be seen is whether that can stem the bear market.
Also helping, exchanges in New York, Chicago, and Kansas City stopped computerized program trading, a method used by the professionals that makes them millions of dollars, but can send stock prices moving wildly up or down.
It's only money. I have the philosophy that easy come, easy go, so.
Not so easy as guessing where the market goes next. It was so up and down today that the experts are admitting privately that while they like the tone at the end, nobody can be exactly sure which way it will go. Dan?
Thanks, Ray. Another important day tomorrow. Now, we'll be devoting a great deal of tonight's broadcast to Wall Street's yo-yo performance. In the meantime, though, coverage of the other headline stories, beginning with that terrible run-amok Air Force jet crash into an Indianapolis airport hotel. The Air Force pilot ejected safely, engine trouble. But the A-7 Corsair attack plane went on to splatter inside the airport Ramada Inn. At least 9 persons known dead, number of injured, how many and how bad, still not known. Some are believed trapped inside. Gary Reeves reports on the fireball at the end.
Eyewitnesses said it sounded like an atomic bomb when the Air Force fighter jet, attempting an emergency landing, crashed into the side of an Indianapolis airport hotel. Guests and workers had no warning and no chance to escape.
The building shook as if it was in a small earthquake, and then next thing you know, there was a lot of smoke.
We see none of them that were up front. I don't know if they're all, I don't know, they didn't even have time to get out of there.
Paramedics rushed to the scene to treat the injured, several of them badly burned.
The first thing I saw when we rode to the scene was one man coming out, he was burning, and we got him down, got his clothes out, got the fire out.
The pilot, Bruce Teagarden, was also slightly hurt when he ejected less than a mile before the crash after his A-7 jet's engine lost power. The plane then clipped the roof of a bank building before finally plowing into the hotel just above the lobby.
Making his right turn and was going to have to get out. He was looking for an open field, but was going to have to get out of the airplane. And that was, I think, the last, something to that effect was the last that he was hurt from.
The death toll here could have been much higher. The hotel had more than 100 registered guests, many of whom had checked out through this lobby in the hour before the plane crashed.
In that immediate area, I imagine the flash of when the aircraft fuel ignited probably took whatever persons were in that general area.
The Corsair A7 jet is an older model, originally built for the Navy. The Air Force says it was on a routine training mission heading from Pittsburgh to its home base in Las Vegas. Authorities here spent the day looking for more victims. An Air Force team is also on the scene, trying to determine why the jet's engine flamed out.
And all of a sudden, the back doors just opened, and everything just started flying, and we just took off out the back door because someone said something hit the hotel.
For the families of the victims, learning the cause will be little consolation for why a night in a hotel ended in a morning of tragedy. Gary Reeves, CBS News, Indianapolis.
U.S. warships launched a new convoy in the Persian Gulf today, escorting 2 U.S.-flagged Kuwaiti tankers. Iran, meanwhile, was threatening to step up the war following yesterday's U.S. attack on 2 oil rig military bases. Iran's oil minister said, quote, "For any blow against us, we will deal a more severe blow on the United States." In Washington, Defense Secretary Weinberger said the U.S. is prepared to hit back until it drives the message home to Iran. The Defense Department today released official pictures of the actual attack on the oil rigs. Alan Pizzi has them in his report from the Gulf.
This is the view of the retaliation raid from the frigate Thatch, one of 5 U.S. Navy ships that helped destroy the Iranian oil platforms. Iran denied U.S. allegations that the platforms were military targets and claimed the only weapons there were air defenses. The rigs were frequent targets of Iraqi airstrikes. The Americans pumped 1,000 rounds of 5-inch shells into 2 platforms. A specialist Navy unit known as SEALs boarded a 3rd one. These pictures were all provided by the Navy. This is apparently what the U.S. Navy did, to the approval of watching sailors. Iran claims the attack caused $500 million worth of damage, and Tehran is planning lawsuits against the United States.
Gulf shipping executives whose business has been seriously battered by the tanker war called the American strike overkill against the wrong target. The shipping men, like some moderate Arab government officials, said they would have preferred to see Silkworm missile sites taken out.
Warships are crowding the southern Gulf, pacifiers for a growing case of war nerves. The USS Guadalcanal's minesweeping helicopters usually lead convoys of American-flagged tankers. Under the shadow of Tehran's threat to avenge yesterday's attack, the next convoy will be a tense one. Another indication of post-raid uncertainty was the unusual sight of 2 fully loaded tankers waiting close to a French destroyer. The only ones who don't seem to have caught Gulf war nerves yet are the Italians, but then they just got here. Alan Pizzi, CBS News in the Gulf.
Straight ahead now on the CBS Evening News, more about Wall Street in your pocketbook. President Reagan defending his economic policies. Bob Schieffer talks to the haggard riders of the Wall Street roller coaster. And Frank Courier reports from a place where Wall Street seems so far away.
Got the same old bowl and the same old spoon. But here's a tasty...
President Reagan attempted to calm jittery worldwide financial markets by promising to consider congressional proposals for new taxes.
I am willing to look at whatever proposal they might have.
And to sit down for a summit meeting with congressional leaders seeking a way to cut the budget deficit.
I am willing to be a participant in anything that can bring us together.
The turnaround came after a hastily called meeting with his top economic advisors. Treasury Secretary James Baker rushed back from Europe. Federal Reserve Chairman Alan Greenspan canceled a speech in Texas. Mr. Reagan expressed satisfaction with today's market rebound.
The economic fundamentals in this country remain sound, and our citizens should not panic, and I have great confidence in the future.
But what apparently has hurt the market is the perception that the administration has not done enough to cut its trade and budget deficits. Since 1981, the nation's trade deficit has more than quadrupled, from $31 billion to over $171 billion. And the budget deficit has also climbed steadily from $78 billion in 1981 to over $200 billion before an improvement this year, which many attribute to a one-time boost in revenues from tax reform. The president still insists the budget shortfall isn't his fault.
And the Congress is responsible for the deficit.
the essence of getting that deficit down is that part of it has to be a tax increase. And everybody who knows anything about budget deficits, except President Reagan, realizes that. He's standing in the way of it. And it is, I think, absolutely absurd to blame the Congress for this.
White House officials are already downplaying the suggestion that Mr. Reagan would consider new taxes. But the statement the president made following that special meeting this afternoon was very deliberately designed to show a new flexibility. The question is, how much flexibility? Bill Plant, CBS News, the White House.
The Wall Street storm clouds hovered over this den of national political leaders today.
The stock market has sent the president and the Congress an unequivocal message to stop the political games and agree on a deficit reduction plan.
Republicans were clearly bothered, and at one point, Republican leader Dole even interrupted a colleague to give him the latest from Wall Street.
I'm reminded that the market is now up dramatically for any ordinary day, I think 101 points.
In both the Senate and House, pressure mounted today for President Reagan to change his mind and agree to an economic summit to consider all solutions to the budget deficit.
Confrontational threats and flights of rhetorical overkill between the executive and legislative branches of government do not breed confidence. They are unsettling.
Late this afternoon, the president's indication that he had changed his mind and was now willing to talk with Congress was immediately hailed.
I welcome this change of attitude on the part of the president, and I think that in itself is a breakthrough.
And maybe, just maybe, it's going to be a direct turnaround from the road that we were going down, the road of confrontation, confrontation, confrontation for the sake of confrontation.
Normally, this is a city of politicians who like to send messages. But in this case, Washington was on the receiving end. The crisis message from Wall Street has been heard loud and clear. Partisan political stalemate is no longer acceptable. Phil Jones, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
Picking up where Wall Street left off yesterday and where some of them left off yesterday, markets in Asia and Europe had a huge record loss day. Analysts were accusing the United States of mismanaging its own economy and leading the rest of the world into financial chaos.
We need a great deal more international cooperation and some steadfast moves on the part of the U.S. Congress to do something about the size of the federal deficit.
In today's trading, the London Stock Exchange lost another 12% of its value, the Tokyo Exchange nearly another 15%, and Sydney, Australia, 25%.